Coming up on today's edition of Locked On Eagles, we have a lot of news to recap. The Eagles made 3 interesting signings and lost another starter on defense. We'll get into it on this Tuesday edition of Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome in, Eagles fans, to a Tuesday edition of the show. I'm Louis DiBiase alongside, as always, my co-host Gino Camilleri. We've got you Monday through Friday on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, the Birds, every single day. And the Birds had a lot more positive news today, Gino, in the second day of the legal tampering window in NFL free agency. Tomorrow, players can officially sign contracts, but we know the official news really comes these recent 2 days. And yesterday, of course, we know the Eagles lost TJ Edwards, Javon Hargrave, Marcus Epps, Andre Dillon, cornerback. They signed from the Seahawks at running back, and they did lose Kyzir White at linebacker. But, Gino, I think a little positive news today than yesterday.
Today is the one day that I thought was going to be a little bit calmer. I thought tomorrow we would start to see an influx of news, but the Eagles news came when they signed a running back that wasn't a Philadelphia free agent. The other 2 players were Philadelphia free agents, but the quote-unquote big signing so far for the Philadelphia Eagles has been a running back in Rashaad Penny, who, Howie Roseman, he's biting at the bit to get over that Darnell Pumphrey whole ordeal. They got the other San Diego State running back in Rashaad Penny, the one that's better, the one that's more efficient. If he could stay healthy, Lou, paying him under $2 million, probably a quarter of what it would have costed you to keep Miles Sanders, who more than likely is on his way out of Philadelphia. It's evident from what the Eagles have done, Lou. They don't pay linebackers. They don't pay running backs. And it just continues to be that way. Kyzir White leaves. TJ Edwards leaves. Boston Scott comes back for $2 million. Rashaad Penny comes back for sub $2 million. Kenny Gainwell is on a rookie contract. Nakobe Dean for the linebackers is on a rookie contract. They like to go value there. And it seems that moving forward with the quarterback contract, those are the positions that probably won't get the TLC that they got under that Hurts rookie deal.
Exactly. Yeah, look at the money that Howie's investing in positions. It's quarterback, it's offensive line and weapons, and it's things on defense to stop the pass. It's edge rushers, and it's cornerbacks. And, Gino, I did not think that they were going to be able to bring back James Bradberry. Me and you both, when we were talking about the big free agents, Javon Hargrave, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, James Bradberry, we said Bradberry's about to be 30 in August. They have Darius under contract. They'll probably prioritize paying a younger safety in Gardner-Johnson. Bradberry will try to cash in with another team after an all-pro season. But Bradberry took less money to come back to Philadelphia. He signs a 3-year deal worth $38 million, can be upwards of $44 million with incentives, $20 million guaranteed. And this was huge, Gino. I understood losing your starting linebackers, losing Javon Hargrave. I understood losing Miles Sanders and eventually Isaac Seumalo, but I was not okay with losing that entire elite secondary. It's a pass-first league, and I got a taste for those elite cornerbacks last year, and I was not about to lose that. So getting Bradberry back on that price tag, I think at 29 right now, a 3-year deal is perfect. I think he'll be great for those 3 seasons, and then he's 32, and you can move on.
It's very similar to what they did with Darius Slay, right? They bring him in, they get him on a 3-year deal. You do that after that 1 year that James Bradberry showed out. I think that number that they got him for, Lou, is below what I expected James
Bradberry said himself, Gino, that he could have got more with other teams, but he likes what Desai had to offer, and he loves Philadelphia.
Hey, I told you, Lou, did I not say it on yesterday's show? If it's within a couple $1 million, do you not think that the Eagles are going to be the favorite of some of these guys? This isn't the Eagles of old, folks. This isn't the one where 3 or 4 years ago where you're saying, has it lost its luster as a free agent to come to Philadelphia? Folks, people want to play with Jalen Hurts. They want to play with the best team in the NFC. Somebody on YouTube today commented on our Jason Kelsey, your short that you posted saying, oh, good thing you kept Jason Kelsey because the competition in the NFC is going to be better next year. I don't know about that. The Eagles continue to just make great signings and they bring back James Bradberry. They're still the belle of the ball. They got Darius Slay. You have those two corners. We were talking about maybe having to replace all of those guys outside of Avonte, Lou. You could potentially still bring back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He hasn't signed yet. We'll potentially find out tomorrow. But James Bradberry was the big one, the one that we thought was surefire going to be out of town. And the Eagles got a disc. I mean, how often does that happen, Lou, that the Eagles, of all teams, get a hometown discount for a guy who's been here for a year? Usually the Eagles are one of those teams that if the bidding is right, you look at Marcus Williams last year, hey, I'll go to Baltimore for a couple more $1 million. It didn't have that intrigue. I think that intrigue is back, Lou. Guys want to sign here. Guys want to play here. I thought the idea of taking a hometown discount was always crazy with players, but James Bradberry, stand-up guy, man. I mean, talk about somebody who got exactly what they were worth, man. Good for him.
To get James Bradberry, if you get the 2022 Bradberry again next year,
it's a steal.
Under $13 million is an absolute steal. So I hope they can make things work with CGJ. That would be the next free agent to really watch here. And we'll see what happens with Darius Slay. To me, would bring him back. I know it's a big cap hit, but unless you have a post-June 1st designation on a trade, you're going to be eating dead cap even if you moved him this year. So to me, I would much rather just run it back for one more year, have that elite cornerback tandem, and I think this gives you more draft flexibility, Gino, too. I would still like to draft a cornerback in the first round at 10th overall specifically because Bradberry and Slay are both going to be 30-plus years old. But at the same time now, if you fall in love with a defensive lineman, Murphy from Clemson, Kalijah Cansey, if Jalen Carter, God forbid, fell down the board, maybe this gives you a little more flexibility. Who knows? Maybe Slay's back. Even if not, I feel a lot better that you at least have one of those elite defensive backs coming back next year.
For the next couple years, Lou, and this doesn't deter them from taking a cornerback. I think we have to put that in writing right away.
Oh, I hope they still do, man.
The Eagles love to do this double up thing where they go in free agency and then they go and draft another guy, right? I mean, you get Devontae Smith and then a year later on the same day you go out and get A.J. Brown.
Well,
you essentially did it reversed.
All their draft picks were 2 years down the road.
Oh, yeah,
eventual starters. So you can still draft Christian Gonzalez at 10th overall and say, next year, we're going to let Slay play out this contract, and next year we're going with Bradberry and Gonzalez.
It's very plausible, Lou, and that's one of the things that I think a couple people had mentioned, that what if they do go forward with Bradberry? And with the amount of dead cap that they have currently, it's the most in the National Football League as it stands. I don't think they're wanting to add more to that number when they already are losing free agents, right? I mean, you're up to 6 or 7 at this point that you have already lost. You bring James Bradberry back. You're able to keep Boston Scott. The Eagles had to find a way to keep those pieces that at core positions. And I'm talking about what is the most important thing right now. It's stopping the pass. You need those two guys, Lou. You need Avonte Maddox as well. You need to have a duo that can shut down trios of wide receivers at this rate. And Lou, I think the best thing that happened to the Philadelphia Eagles today might have not been signing James Bradberry back. I think it's Stephon Gilmore getting traded to the Dallas Cowboys for a 5th, because I don't think Howie Roseman moves Darius Slay for a 5th-round pick with that cap number, with the dead cap. No way. That might have been a saving grace for them.
Yeah, you're not taking a 5th-round pick. Darius Slay was incredible last year. You're not going to eat a ton of dead cap on a pre-June 1st designation for a low-round selection.
No way.
Or I know with a post-June 1st designation, you free up $17 million in cap space this year, but you still eat about $9 million dead cap afterwards. And your draft compensation for that kind of designation can't be until 2024 when you have all these compensatory picks coming anyway. So to me, the ideal scenario, Gino, is just keep Darius Slay. So I hope they get it done. And I'm with you. I think they made the right investments these past 2 weeks on what positions to pay. And I don't like that you lost TJ Edwards and you lost Kyzir White today, who rejoins Jonathan Gannon with the Arizona Cardinals. But this team doesn't pay off-ball linebackers, and I think you can be okay replacing White. I liked him a lot last year, but, Gino, he was in the second half of the season. I mean, he never really got beat bad. You didn't notice him because he was bad, but you didn't really notice him for good reasons either.
That's fair. I would have liked to see if they could have kept him.
Me too.
Think that Arizona might have overpaid for him. I mean, with that
11
linebacker
million over
market
2
right
years,
now,
I probably would not have paid that.
yeah, if you're putting his number in terms of APY, it's only $1 million less than TJ Edwards is getting, right? And
Right.
I would think that the league has a much higher appreciation for a player of TJ Edwards who can be a true Mike / off-ball linebacker / coverage guy. Where Kyzir White, he is kind of limited in the role that he could take on. I would have liked to see them stay athletic at that position, but it looks like Nakobe Dean. Showtime, brother. I can't
It's
wait to see what
his
that kid can
middle of
do
the
next
field,
year.
man. Yeah, for sure. Do you have any idea, before we take a break and talk Rashaad Penny, anybody off the top of your head when it comes to that second linebacker spot for agency or the draft right now?
I really don't like what do you expect? I don't know. I
Yeah,
thought they would have kept one of them. I
me
thought that
too.
Nakobe Dean would have
Definitely
just
was a
plugged in
surprise.
and taken the other spot, but does Sean Bradley get a crack at that other spot? Do
Yeah,
they
I'm not
really
sure.
like him if he's a special teams guy? I think they'll inevitably sign a veteran. I didn't look too much into the linebacking veteran market because I thought they would have one back, but
I agree.
that's something we might have to keep an eye on for tomorrow, guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Like Sione Takitaki goes back with the Browns. You see Bobby Okereke end up with the New York Giants. You see Leighton Vander Esch end up back with the Cowboys. Those guys are going quick and the numbers are low. So I think the Eagles are just waiting for maybe a guy that doesn't get his number, much like Kyzir White last year, where they could just kind of plug and play him. They
This
don't
might be
appreciate linebackers. I don't know. That's just what it is.
This might be like safety last year where it's after the draft and you're trying to find a veteran, prove it 1 year deal to go next to Dean. So we'll see what happens, but I'm very happy with the moves the Eagles made today, including the signing of former Seattle Seahawks running back Rashaad Penny. Want to get into that signing with Gino coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast. And guys, today's show is sponsored by the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, the NFL and the NBA. It's FanDuel. The playoff chase is on in the NBA. Now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. Philadelphia 76ers are on fire right now. Hammer the over on Joel Embiid numbers. James Harden, whoever, you name it. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This is the Locked On Eagles podcast, a Tuesday edition of the show, recapping a flurry of moves. The Eagles re-signing cornerback James Bradberry. And then, Gino, they made some moves in the backfield. Also got to mention, of course, as we mentioned earlier, they lost linebacker Kyzir White to the Arizona Cardinals. In the backfield, they re-signed Boston Scott to a 1-year deal worth $3 million, it looked like. And they got maybe their new RB1 in a committee, of course, and Miles Sanders' replacement in Rashaad Penny of the Seattle Seahawks. And, Gino, this is what I wanted, really. If you were not going to pay Miles Sanders, I wanted to go the value route. I wanted to go with a committee approach, sign a cheap free agent, and or draft a mid-round rookie. And Penny is a high-reward, low-risk move. This player on the field when he plays is an elite, efficient, explosive, powerful running back. The issue is he has not been able to stay healthy his entire NFL career, a former first-round pick. So that's why he only costs $1.3 million with $600,000 guaranteed. But in a committee approach behind this offensive line next to Jalen Hurts, he could be a top running back if he's healthy.
Did this feel very LeGarrette Blunty to you?
Jay Ajayi a little bit too, man.
Jay Ajayi, that's fair. I think
Jay Ajayi stayed healthy in 2017, and you saw how efficient he was behind the elite offensive line.
Exactly. I think that's one of the things when you first look at, they signed Rashaad Penny. Well, can he stay healthy? That's ultimately what it is. And I think everybody had cracked a joke about that. But when you look at the efficiency numbers, and we talked about this right before the show starts, Warren Sharp, one of the great analytical minds, actually works with the Eagles, had tweeted out, if you want to know about Rashaad Penny, just take a look at this chart. And it's his efficiency rating. And Rashaad Penny is an outlier to the nth degree in the best way possible. He's an efficient runner. He's explosive. He gets up to speed quickly. And Lou put it on the screen for our friends over at YouTube. Look at Rashaad Penny. Completely blows the rest of the pack out of the water. I don't think it takes away the amount of snaps that Kenny Gainwell is going to get. I don't think it takes away the type of touches that Boston Scott is going to get. Rashaad Penny's not much of a go and catch the ball type of guy. He is a Jordan Howard with that Miles Sanders type of explosiveness, if we're going to put it that way. Somebody who
I agree.
1 foot in the ground, we're going to get upfield. He's a bigger body. I think they were missing that towards the end of the season last year, Lou, especially in the Super Bowl. You look at that 3rd and 1 where Kenny Gainwell kind of slips a little bit. It's like, damn, what if they had like a LeGarrette Blount type of guy, just puts his head down and goes and gets that. And he's cheap, cost effective. And this could be one of those things where you're saying, wait, they signed Rashaad Penny for $1 million. He's a 1,000-yard rusher. He has 11 touchdowns on the year, or he's on the IR from day one, and
there's really
no play. There's no middle ground with this guy.
Well, maybe there is because he's not going to get the 200 plus carries that Miles Sanders gets in a season. It's going to be a committee approach with Kenneth Gainwell, and I imagine they're still going to draft a running back with one of those later picks to be part of that big four. But Rashaad Penny, I think, is going to lead the way if he is healthy. I mean, Gino, listen to these numbers. So throughout his career, yards per carry, his rookie year, 4.9. Second year, 5.7. Third year, took a step back at 3.1. The last 2 years, 6.3 yards per carry and 6.1. He led the league in rushing the half of the 2021 season. I'm not done. Ranking among ball carriers with 100-plus attempts in 2022, according to PFF, Rashaad Penny led the league in yards per carry, little league in yards after contact. So there's that power element. And then here's the Miles Sanders breakaway element. His breakaway rate was 1st in the NFL. His elusive rating, 5th. So this guy, again, there is a reason the Seahawks in 2019 or 2018, I forget, he was a first-round talent. Yeah, 2018. He just has had some pretty significant leg injuries. And if you can, like Jay Ajayi, if you can get him in a committee approach, he's going to give you that efficiency. And, he runs angry, not a lot of wasted movement. I'm excited about this. If they weren't going to pay Miles Sanders, like I said, then go with the value move. And I think this is the best bang for your buck.
Without a doubt. And I think keeping Boston Scott as well as having Kenneth Gainwell here is just as good as you could have asked for if you weren't going to put all of that money into Miles Sanders. And if you put that money into Miles Sanders, you probably lose Boston. You're not going to have money to go and pay another guy, in which you probably wouldn't. But the method of operations for the Eagles ever since the last 10 years or so, Lou, has been running back by committee. Ever since LaShawn has been gone, that's what it's been. And even last year, I think the Eagles realized, they're like, I don't think we're going to get a bell cow back out of Miles Sanders, and we have to figure out how to play to these guys' strengths. And Rashaad Penny is completely different from what you have in-house right now. And if he is on the field, he is one of those guys that completely can light it up. And our good friend over at Locked On Seahawks, Corbin, let us know today, and he put out a great tweet, that Kenneth Walker doesn't have that breakout season if Rashaad Penny doesn't get hurt.
Rashaad Penny beat Kenneth Walker out in training camp, Gino.
He was playing at a high level. He was playing at a great level. That Seahawks offense was clicking through him, and that's with the 25th best offensive line in football. Like, imagine him behind the top rushing offense in football. That's what you have to be excited about.
Yeah, and we're going to talk with Corbin Smith. He joined me for segment 3, so he talked highly of Rashaad Penny. He's loved him since his San Diego State days. And, look, Miles Sanders was, to me, very underappreciated in Philadelphia over the last 4 years. I think he was very underrated. I think there were a lot of times his offense had no talent, and he, especially in 2019 as a rookie, had to pick up the slack. So I love his time in Philadelphia, but he was the number 1 free agent running back on the open market. And when you have the number 1 offensive line, when you have maybe the number 1 mobile quarterback, if not, he's a top 3 rushing quarterback in Jalen Hurts, you're not going to pay him that kind of money when you can get a Rashaad Penny for $1.3 million. And if he's healthy, he can match Sanders' production, if not exceed it.
Isn't it crazy that just a couple of years ago, after Miles Sanders' rookie year and what we expected him to be in his sophomore year, they were saying, could he get Christian McCaffrey money? Now we're saying, nope, don't go for $2 million with a running back.
Well,
just
he
don't
still
do
deserves the contract he's going to get.
Does. He does.
Yeah, again, Gino, just
not in Philly.
When you're in the situation the Eagles are in right now, where you got to pay a quarterback, you got to pay all these free agents, even if you didn't have that kind of situation.
And Jalen Hurts might be your best rusher, Lou. Like, we have to account for that as well.
And Sanders doesn't catch the football. So that's the other part Look, I like having a bell cow running back. I made the point for 2 years on this podcast that having a guy that can do it all and have that guy on 3 downs, it makes your offense less predictable. But to me, just having a committee doesn't mean you can't have complete running backs. And I think they have a couple already, and you can draft another guy. And it's just a more cost-effective way to do this. Again, you can match the production of a lead back by a certain percentage by saving a ton of money. So it doesn't mean running backs don't matter. It's just you can find them at a much easier way that you're not going to pay these guys. So I love Miles Sanders. I loved his time in Philadelphia. He thanked everybody already on Twitter, kind of got the writing on the wall here. But I think this was the right move considering their situation. Any final thoughts here on the backfield, Gino?
Don't get too attached to running backs. I think LaShawn McCoy made that as evident
that's a good
as ever.
theme.
It's like these guys are a dime a dozen in this league. And it's unfortunate for guys like Miles Sanders who did play their rear end off. But Howie Roseman, if there's ever a position he applies a true money ball approach to, exactly what you said, Lou, if they can get a percentage of what Miles Sanders did,
right,
they're going to go ahead and do that. And that's exactly what they did today. And the biggest winner might be mock drafts, because if you believe Bijan Robinson is going to be the
we
pick,
can put that to rest.
They're not going to draft a bell cow back.
No,
they're
Gino,
not going to trust the guy to have all 3 downs. They just don't do it. They go with this committee approach, and it's evident as ever today.
And look, they drafted Miles Sanders in the 2nd round, but to me, this is also why you don't draft a running back in the first 2 rounds, because they don't get second contracts most of the time.
Bingo.
So unless you're going to give him a second contract, just don't take him and take this approach. Corbin Smith of Locked On Seahawks joins me next right here on Locked On Eagles. He thinks Rashaad Penny could not only be as good as Miles Sanders from 2022, but be better if he stays healthy. He had a lot of great things to say about Penny. I think he's going to get you excited about the Eagles' new running back. We'll get into that coming up next on this Tuesday edition of Locked On Eagles.
After the month of February comes the best month of the year. It is March Madness, and we're not talking about NFL free agent. We are talking about the actual March Madness brackets, and we have a message from our friends over at Built Bar. The Built Bar March Madness bracket is here. We know that you have a favorite bar or puff or granola, whatever you like, you have a favorite. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. You know I'll be voting for peanut butter brownie, of course. And if you love the Philadelphia Eagles and you want them to win, you'll be voting for that bar too. Support your team, support your bar or puff. And when you go and vote, and you vote for a bar or puff, you will be entered into a drawing, and 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built Bar just for voting. Come on. I mean, what is better than that? It's March Madness. Go and watch actual March Madness with your free box of Built. And not only that, but one Locked On fan will get a 12-month subscription to have Built Bars delivered to your house for a month straight for 12 months. That's insane, Lou. I'm going to enter this as soon as I get off here. You got to try Built Bar. If you haven't tried them yet, what are you waiting for? What better time than to get in on the action? Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now and vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick.
All right, everybody, welcome back into this Tuesday edition of Locked On Eagles. Excited about my next guest who's going to help me dive into the newest Eagles running back in Rashaad Penny, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks. Joining me on the podcast, Locked On Seahawks host Corbin Smith. Corbin, thanks for joining the show today, man.
Absolutely, man. Looking forward to talking about Mr. Penny.
Absolutely. A 1-year deal, a low-risk, high-reward signing. In my opinion, a former first-round talent. His numbers, when he is on the field, Corbin, look pretty incredible. What are the Eagles getting in Rashaad Penny?
Well, the big key here is, are you getting a healthy Rashaad Penny? Because that is the one thing that has held him back. But he's averaging more than 5 yards per carry in his NFL career. This guy is the textbook definition of explosive. And I don't have all the numbers specifically in front of me, but Jonathan Taylor and Nick Chubb, the last 3 years, have the most 20-plus yard runs in the NFL, and Rashaad Penny is just behind them. The other two players have had full seasons for the most part,
right,
and 500-plus more carries than Rashaad Penny, and he is right behind them. He has historically been explosive the last 3 years when he's been healthy. The end of the 2021 season, he led all running backs the last 6 games in rushing yards, averaged more than 6.5 yards per carry. He was putting up Barry Sanders video game numbers those last 6 games. The problem has been fluky injuries that have kept him out for large extended stretches. He tore his ACL at the end of the 2019 season. Played just 3 games in 2020, recovering from that injury. And then this past season, he got off to a red-hot start, and then a guy falls in his leg just the wrong way, and he ends up fracturing his ankle. It's just fluky injuries. He didn't have any injury history at San Diego State before coming to the NFL either, and so it's been really tough to watch because this kid has such great talent. I will just say this right now. I thought Rashaad Penny, dating back to his time coming into the league, has Hall of Fame type talent.
Wow. I think Eagles fans will be excited to hear that.
On the field. He hasn't been able to stay healthy.
Yeah, so Corbin, I think in that, obviously it was a first-round pick, and the numbers speak for themselves, but I think that is the risk, of course, is that he hasn't been able to stay on the field. But so you're saying that it was more of fluke injuries? Is he somebody that's injury prone? I mean, how risky? Again, the money, they didn't invest a lot into him, so it's not a huge risk, but they are seemingly going to let Miles Sanders walk now through free agency because of this move, and they're going to go with the value and the committee approach in the backfield. So they did invest at least that much in him, where he's expected right now to be their starting running back next year. Is he just a walking injury, or so you're saying it might not be the case?
No, I hate the term injury prone because there are guys that would check that box off, and Rashaad Penny's had a number of soft tissue injuries. But the thing is, he talked about this with reporters last year. A lot of those soft tissue injuries came after he tore his ACL, and that is normal when guys blow out their knee. They tend to have soft tissue injuries. And so it's unfortunate. But the injury he had this past season, again, a guy landed on his leg just right. Like, that's a fluky injury. The no contact torn ACL that he had in 2019, he was on a tear in the few games before that. Ironically, one of the big games he had was against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. And I believe
remember
he had
that game all too well.
40 rushing yards in that game and a 50-something yard touchdown where he used his 235-pound frame and just rocketed by the Eagles' secondary players. That's the thing. This guy is not just a 210-pound back that has 4.4 speed. He's 235 pounds, and he outruns people. Like, there's just not a guy that has that size and speed combination in the NFL. I mean, he's faster than Derrick Henry is.
Yeah.
But he just hasn't been able to stay healthy, and it stinks because he's a great kid too. He is, I tweeted this earlier, he is somebody, you're not going to find anybody that's going to root harder for him than what I am, because this guy was always upstanding with reporters with all the injuries and stuff, and he handled the adversity that he's dealt with vigor, with optimism, and he's dealt with so much. And so I'm hoping that he is able to turn the corner and stay healthy, because I think he's a guy that can run for 1,200 yards plus in a season.
That's great to hear.
If he could just stay on the field.
Yeah, and Corbin, that's what I was wondering, is what is Penny's ceiling behind an elite offensive line, an elite mobile quarterback in Jalen Hurts next to him? I think Miles Sanders over 4 years was, I think, undervalued and maybe a little bit underrated in Philadelphia, but you look at the open market right now and all these franchise tags of Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, also Saquon Barkley. Sanders was the top free agent, so the Eagles, with all those resources they have in the run game already, weren't probably going to shell out a big contract to Sanders. So, but he did have a great 2022. Do you think Penny can be what Miles was last year if he's healthy, you're saying?
If he's healthy, and again, that's a huge if, because I've never seen Rashaad Penny do it in the NFL. I've never seen him play. I believe his rookie year he played in 14 games, but since that point, there's just been injury after injury. And again, a lot of these have felt really fluky and just a lot of bad luck, but he hasn't been able to stay on the field until he shows he can do it. It's hard for me to give you a projection, but I'm just telling you, look at those 6 games, the end of 2021, when he rattled off almost 700 rushing yards just in 6 games. That's the kind of talent we're talking about here.
Yeah.
If you can keep it, if you can have him play 12 or 13 games, he's going to rush for 1,300 yards.
I'll take that.
What we've seen, but he hasn't been able to do that. And so it's been unfortunate. Again, I'm pulling for him. He's got some receiving talent. He's improved in pass protection. I mean, there's a lot to like about the kid. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy, and it reached a point where the Seahawks with Ken Walker III are like, look, we're not going to invest money in you for a 6th season. So I hope that he's able to get it done in Philadelphia. I'm a huge fan. I think he's a great kid and incredibly talented player.
Yeah, and Corbin, I think he might benefit too from a committee-like approach. He probably, I think it sounds good to hear you say that talent-wise, he can get to the ceiling of Miles Sanders in 2022, but workload-wise, he's not going to see the 200-plus carries that Miles did. So I'd probably expect an increased role for Kenneth Gainwell, and I wouldn't rule out them still probably drafting a running back in the middle of the round. So that might benefit Penny as well.
You need to get yourself some insurance just because of his injury history. I'm hoping that he is able to curb that.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that he avoids the bad luck that has really plagued his entire NFL career, because when the kid is on the field, he is special. I mean,
That's
you
exciting
just
to hear.
don't see 235-pound guys that run like that. They don't grow on trees.
Right, and that's big.
The third gear is rare. You just don't see guys that can go from second to third gear when they get past the linebackers like this guy has. He's just got very rare explosiveness and acceleration. Just got to hope that you can keep him on the field.
Yeah, Corbin, that's the good thing is I feel like Miles Sanders, what made him so great was his breakaway. Rashaad Penny's breakaway rating last year was atop the league when he was on the field, but he has that power element I feel like the Eagles didn't have in the backfield. So definitely exciting for sure. Before I let you go, I got to know with the Seattle Seahawks, I know you guys extended Geno Smith, but you guys have a top pick this year, and there's a lot of uncertainty at quarterback in this draft. Do you think Seattle's taking a quarterback, or what's the future for you guys?
I think it just depends on who ends up being available. That's really what it boils down to. I think Carolina trading up to pick number 1 is going to give Seattle a great opportunity for one of the top 2 defensive players to be there for them at number 5.
That's true.
And Geno Smith, the way he played last year, the way that his teammates respond to him, they're hoping that he's able to put that in a bottle and play that way or even better this year. And so I don't think they're going to force the issue. Now, if Anthony Richardson ended up being available, I don't think John Schneider's going to be passing up on that opportunity. But I, at this point, would be leaning they're probably not going QB just based on what I expect is going to happen those first 4 picks. But it's John Schneider. Anything can happen, and he has not had a top 5 pick the entire time he's been in Seattle. So if the quarterback is there, he's going to pull the trigger on that.
Isn't it funny that I feel like both of our teams, the Eagles and Seahawks, headed into this year with 2 first-round picks, and you thought they're probably going to be taking a quarterback after one lost Russell Wilson, traded him away, and one tried to trade for him, and it didn't work out, and yet Jalen Hurts and Geno Smith became the guy. So I guess you just never know,
Yep. NFL, it truly is unpredictable.
Yep. Well, Corbin, hopefully the unpredictable side of Rashaad Penny will be in a positive way, that he's unpredictably healthy.
Except when they play the Seahawks next year. That
true.
Game, he can hold off rushing for 50-yard touchdowns.
Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, joining us today on Locked On Eagles to preview the Eagles' new running back in Rashaad Penny for 2023. Corbin, appreciate it, my man.
Thanks for having me, man.